Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now getting closer to the middle point of June of 2023, and given that we have a couple of more weeks to go until John and Dave heavily promote the Ahsoka Tano series, even more so ahead of its July final trailer debut that's going to set things up for its August 23rd release date, we also have a lot of things that have been going on between the Disney executives, including the CEO Bob Iger, and everything related to what's been going on with the shakeup over at Disney to really course correct the Star Wars franchise and really bring it back to its roots and bring it back to the vision of George Lucas. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into exactly what the situation is right now. Now, we know that basically, Bob Iger is preparing a full slate of announcements that will be happening at D23 this year. In case you guys have no idea what that is, it's going to be a very big Disney event that takes place this September that's going to include a lot of announcements, especially related to Star Wars, Marvel, and more. Especially Star Wars, because this is going to be the event that was supposed to essentially be partially used for celebration. We were supposed to have a lot more announcements during then, but due to, of course, Disney's strategy, they wanted to hold things off until the later portion of this year. But that brings us to exactly what's going on right now with Bob Iger and what he recently had to do in order to cancel a series of Star Wars movies, and specifically why. So let's get right into all of this, alright? Now, with Disney and Lucasfilm preparing to develop new projects for the upcoming roadmap of Star Wars films and TV shows. However, one big development happening right now over at Disney is Iger is currently canceling a full slate of Star Wars movies that will be officially announced later this year during one of his earnings calls. Now, Iger recently finalized the cancellation of many greenlit movies that were in limbo mode for a while by no other than Kathleen Kennedy, completely, of course, shelving a lot of these films that consisted of the Rian Johnson trilogy that is now shelved, the Kevin Feige movie, and even a full High Republic trilogy that was supposed to be created by Leslye Headland herself that was going to focus on a time of peace for the Star Wars galaxy, where Kennedy's plan was to hire Leslye Headland to get a new Star Wars trilogy since she was working on the Acolyte, which too is based during that era, that has now been officially cancelled and was aimed to be 3 Star Wars films that would focus on changing the way of the Jedi Order during the dawn of the High Republic. The plan by Kennedy was to focus on cataclysmic events that would disturb the galaxy and the nature of the Force, and that it was up to the Jedi to stop these world-ending threats to come to an end. Now, let me pause here quick. Now, we've talked about this lightly before in the past, about how Iger was going in multiple phases of finalizing these plans to ending all of these movies, and Rian Johnson's trilogy was very long overdue. We know that Bob Chapek, the previous Disney CEO, was really in the middle of making that happen, but it got disturbed, and it was kind of just there in limbo mode as well. We're talking about the plan of canceling them and shelving them. So now Iger officially is going to be announcing all of these movies getting pretty much, put into the trash by this fall with their new announcements for the current roadmap of Star Wars that's going to stretch all the way until the end of the 2020s. And look, when you think about it this way, the whole Rian Johnson trilogy to begin with was absurd. It was just so crazy to even think about. He is at least 6 or 7 years even from making a first Star Wars movie anyway, so it really makes no sense to keep these movies literally, on the roadmap. It just makes absolutely no sense at all. It has no logic attached to it, and that's why Iger wanted to just get rid of those. Plus, they are fully aware now that practically no fans want Rian Johnson back to Star Wars. So, the thing that really comes to me as a shocker is that Leslye Headland, as it turns out, was going to get her own Star Wars trilogy. Now, keep in mind that these movies were going to be for Disney Plus to keep room open for other slots to open up in theaters, such as Rian Johnson's movies and other standalone films in between those films. Now, moving on. Now, this involved Kennedy's pitch of a Star Wars trilogy to be labeled as Star Wars mixed with disaster films, such as climate change and even the danger of asteroids in a galaxy far, far away. Disney knew going in that this was going to bomb the minute that they caught wind of Kennedy and Leslie's pitch of the stories. Iger and the executives made the call to cancel these movies entirely just recently that were going to go over budget and underperform most likely, and Disney knew going in that these films would only make them lose money in the end, since they were going to be relying on subscription services. The Leslye trilogy, however, was aimed to debut on Disney+, and each film was planned to be around 2.5 hours long in length to explore the beginning of this new era that would promote a new way of the Jedi and what they believe in. Leslye was also going to drastically change Yoda in these movies that was going to make fans very angry. Now, look, basically, what she was going to do to Yoda is what Kathleen Kennedy did to Luke in the sequel trilogy. They were going to make him very different. And as it turns out, what's interesting is that you guys may recall that one of the reasons why Rian Johnson changed Luke so much, and his way of justifying why Luke was so different in The Last Jedi, is that he always compared it to the prequel version of Yoda and the original trilogy version of Yoda. He would say that, oh, you know, how Yoda is so different in the prequels and how he kind of acts totally different as well in the originals. He wanted to do that with Luke. And it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work at all that way because fans grew up with the Luke that they all know and love in Star Wars Legends books and comics and stuff like that. And, you know, somebody like Rian Johnson, who claims to be a hardcore fan, really just got it wrong. Same exact thing, by the way, goes for Leslye Headland, and we're going to be talking about her later because there's been a lot of things going on with her lately, but she herself claims to be a fan, and yet has even admitted before in the not so, distant past, she herself even said that she never saw the prequel trilogy from start to finish. In fact, if you really go back a couple of years, she even did state at one point that she wasn't really a Star Wars fan growing up, and then she magically is. It really just is a shocker that Lucasfilm hires people like this, but moving to the next thing here, this is where things begin to get a little bit more absurd, in my opinion, is that these High Republic movies that were shelved, thankfully, by Bob Iger, this is going to be officially announced once again, guys, at this year's November earnings call for Disney. And these movies were going to feature Geo the Rock. And I'm not even kidding, there was going to be a bolder character that was force sensitive, that's just stationary. We're not talking about a character like the Thing from Marvel, where it's a humanoid. No, it's a literal boulder just sitting there called Geo the Rock. It's a literal character in the High Republic. Go ahead and look it up. That was going to be one of the main characters in the High Republic trilogy for Disney Plus by Leslye Headland. And to me, the only thing I can really think about is what in the world are they thinking by throwing in a rock as a character? I can't wrap my mind around this. Maybe I'm going a little overboard, but I think that's just no creativity at all, especially with what's been done in the comics and the books so far. I've read every single one of them to have proper judgment, and it just doesn't feel like Star Wars. So, anyways, guys, I would love to hear each and every one of your comments below, what you guys have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.